All right, we're back on the Young Turks. We've got a new panel member, Ben Mankiewicz. He's the host, of course, at Turner Classic Movies. We're going to talk about a movie, but it's all connected to what we've been discussing today, which is about racial justice in this country. This time it's about Oscar Grant. They made a movie out of his unfortunate slaying by police officers up in Oakland, and has got more details. Yes,
the name of the movie is Fruitvale Station, and it premiered last Friday under limited release in the Bay Area, but it is expected to be widely released very soon. And it documents the case of 22-year-old Oscar Grant, who was shot and killed by a BART official in San Francisco on New Year's Day 4 years ago. In fact, ABC News has more on this story, but pay close attention to the parallels between this case and the Trayvon Martin case.
22-year-old was unarmed when he was shot and killed by a BART police officer on New Year's Day 4 years ago. Octavia Spencer plays Grant's mother.
It just seemed that the lives of young men of color felt very expendable, and I felt like we had to examine that.
Hey, Oscar, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Oscar from Pharmacia? Get off the train now! Put that phone away.
Where you at? Are you still on the train?
We still at Fruitvale.
Why can't you tell me what is going on? What is the problem? What did you do? Oh my God.
Good, I'm good. I'm good. We're gonna be good. We're gonna be good.
Now, the officer was later convicted in this case, and he served only 11 months in prison as a result of that, and this led to a number of different protests. I want to show you some pictures from Huffington Post that showed what the protests were like, and many people were upset about this, understandably so. And, you know, the release of this film is definitely symbolic, especially given the ruling in the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case. And I just want to talk to you guys about it. I mean, what do you think about this? Do you guys see the parallels?
Look, man, every case is painted as a coincidence, right? It's just a coincidence that Marissa Alexander was a black woman who claimed stand your ground against what she said was an abusive husband, and she'd gotten a restraining order against. That's in Florida. She just fired a warning shot. Some argue about whether it was intended to hit him or not. She gets 20 years. It's just a coincidence that she's black and happened to get 20 years. That Zimmerman, who does a very similar defense, who actually shot and killed a 17-year-old, gets acquitted. It's just a coincidence that Oscar Grant happens to be black and gets shot in the back by a cop. It's just a coincidence that he only gets 11 months for involuntary manslaughter. It's just a coincidence every single time. I feel like we're defying all odds makers here in America with the constant coincidences.
Yeah, I don't get that lucky when I bet. You know, when you, and I felt this way when I started to take to Twitter after the Zimmerman verdict, and then I wisely didn't. Because I think that, like, it's not, if the Zimmerman case, if you look at, like, why he was acquitted, or why perhaps, and I'd have to refresh my memory exactly, I haven't seen Fruitvale Station yet, but I will, and I know other movie critics have responded to it enormously positively, and Michael B. Jordan incredibly effective as Oscar Grant. But if you take a look at each case on their own merits, you can probably justify the outcome sometimes in a specific case of a difficult way to convict Zimmerman, and it was a hard case, and the fact is the most compelling eyewitness Zimmerman killed. That does make it incredibly difficult to prove the case. But if you stop looking at it as about a case and start looking about it as justice, do we have justice in these cases? And do we have a problem of an inequitable justice system? It's impossible to deny that. It's impossible to miss that.
To validate these things is to give, whenever you hear terms like, oh, you're playing race card, well, stop race baiting. It means shut up. I don't want to hear about the problems in our country. I'm one of these people, and you're making me uncomfortable to make me talk about the problems in my head and the perceptions I have of people like you. So please, shut up, stop talking about it. And what this has also done, the other parallel I see is, with the Zimmerman case and this, we talked for years about cops. We know for decades about cops and their violence towards certain members of our society. What this case has done is now validated citizens who want to be cops, and they can play that role and it's like, well, I can now run up and approach people. As long as I have my gun because I'm a coward, I can run up and have a gun and say that you're doing something wrong because I perceive you to do something wrong, and then shoot you, because that's what crooked police officers have done, as in this case. It just now anybody you see on the street. Usually, if you see a black and white police car with lights on the top and a man in uniform, then you start going, wonder what he's following me for. Now we have to think about that for anybody in our society. They can follow us.
Yeah. And Michael, you know, there's this amazing stat that Michelle Alexander talks about, I believe, where she says that in inner cities, I believe 80% of African American men at some point wind up in the prison system, right? So it's a stunning fact, right? But the problem is all these assumptions that we've been talking about, JR's been mentioning throughout the show. Like Michael Bloomberg the other day said, well, of course I stop and frisk blacks and Latinos. They're the ones who commit crime. I couldn't believe he said that. He said it on a radio show, right? But maybe you're arresting the blacks and Latinos because you assume they're going to commit crime and you look into them, et cetera. I mean, my favorite stat on that is the blacks in this country smoke marijuana at the same exact rate as whites, but they get arrested for it at 4 times higher rates. In some cities, in some states, 8 times higher rates. Is the problem the assumptions?
Yeah, as JR said, I mean, and we can't pretend to know what that experience is like, even in the same way that JR does. And he lives in a big, progressive city like Los Angeles. Of course, it's in the perception. It's having to have martyrs like Trayvon Martin, unfortunately, like Oscar Grant, going back to 1955, like Emmett Till. And you think that that's going to change things, and it did change things in the 50s. I don't see it changing things as much as it should right now. I thought when Amadou Diallo was an immigrant in New York of Ghanaian descent in New York who was killed in a horrible way, shot up, and actually, no, he wasn't shot up. That was somebody different who was shot up, but abused by the police. And I thought that was going to change the way we talked about it. It doesn't. Like you just said, Cenk, 4 times as many people, 4 times as many arrests and convictions, but they use it the exact same. Do you think that the black people in America speed on the freeways more than white people do? No, but the experience of driving while black is universal in the African-American community.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to leave this one right here. But when we come back, we're going to talk about